Hello and welcome to Mindshifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour, and today is Wednesday, June 16th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or listening through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever discovered in my over 47 years of doing therapy. These tools are gratefully available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the link that says Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it'll take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. It's a tool I've been using to great effect for 17 years or so now to improve the quality of my life, manage my emotions, improve my relationships, and effectively turn any negative emotional experience into part of the infallible guidance system that we've all been gifted. You can also download the actual worksheet itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click on it, download it, copy it, and print it off and use it as often as you'd like. You can also go to your app store and type in the 3 words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon, and if you tap on that, it'll let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. You can also download a host of audio files of shows just like this one, where people have been stepped through that process, and those shows are an invaluable guide. They can serve as a tutorial, and they can let people access the tool itself and training for how to apply it most effectively in their lives just by listening to those audio files over and over again. And if you do that, as we hope people do that soon and often, you can either email us with your comments or questions, Jeannie at jeanie@yagain.org. 167th day of the year, which means the lesson for today reads, there is one life, and that I share with the Creator. That I share with love. That I share with God. The commentary is quite lengthy, but it's rather important. It reads, there are not different kinds of life, for life is like truth. It does not have degrees. It is the one condition in which all that the Creator created share. Like all His thoughts, it has no opposite. There is no death because the Creator shares its life. There is no death because an opposite to creation does not exist. There is no death because the Father and the Son are one. The Creator and its offspring are one. Now, in this world, there appears to be a state that is life's opposite. You call it death. Yet we have learned that the idea of death takes many forms. This is the one idea which underlies all feelings that are not supremely happy. It is the alarm to which you give response of any kind that is not perfect joy. Therefore, all sorrow, all loss, all anxiety, suffering, and pain, even a little sigh of weariness, a slight discomfort, the merest frown, all acknowledge death. And thus, you live. They deny your life. You think that death is of the body, yet it is but an idea, irrelevant to what is seen as physical. A thought is in the mind. It can then be applied as mind directs it. But its origin is where it must be changed, if change occurs. Ideas leave not their source. Now, the emphasis this course has placed on that single idea is due to its centrality in our attempts to change your mind about yourself. Ideas leave not their source. If you get that, you can begin to change your mind about yourself. It is the reason you can heal. It is the cause of healing. It is why you cannot die. The truth of this thought, this actuality, is established as you are one with the Creator that created you. Death is the thought you are separate from your Creator. Death is the belief that conditions change. 15 paragraphs of commentary in the workbook lesson, and it's quite short. And she titles this lesson, Universe Dreams Bigger Than I Do for Myself. And she quotes Elizabeth Gilbert, author of Eat, Pray, Love, and other books. She quotes her as saying, "Where is the joy in my life, and what have I sacrificed it for?" Pam writes, there are a grand total of 2, and some of it isn't because we're running from such great fear. Some of it is because we've simply been raised in an environment where our nervous system, which evolved at a whole different level of stimulation, has been subjected to stimulation beyond our imagination. Even 100 years ago, there was no way human beings could have imagined the level of stimulation we're subjected to today. With the internet, with our phones, they will return. The mind can think it sleeps, but that is all. It cannot change what is its waking state. It cannot make a body nor abide within the body. What is alien to the mind does not truly exist because it has no source. For mind creates all things that are and cannot give them but attributes it lacks nor change its own external, eternal mindful state. It cannot make the physical. What seems to die is but the sign of mind asleep. The opposite of life can only be another form of life. As such, it can be reconciled with what created it, because it is not opposite in truth. Its form may change, it may appear to be what it is not, yet mind is mind, whether awake or asleep. It is not its opposite in anything created, nor in what it seems to make when it believes it sleeps. So God creates only mind awake. The Creator does not sleep, and its creations cannot share what He has not given them, nor make conditions which He does not share with them. The thought of death is not the opposite to thoughts of life. Forever unopposed by opposites of any kind, the thoughts of God remain forever changeless, with the power to extend forever changelessly, but yet within themselves, for they are everywhere. What seems to be opposite of life is merely sleeping. When the mind elects to be what it is not, and to assume an alien power which it does not have, to assume a foreign state it cannot enter, or to assume a false condition not within its source, it merely seems to go to sleep for a while. It dreams of time, an interval in which what seems to happen never has occurred. The changes that are wrought have no substance, and all events are nowhere. When the mind awakes, it but continues as it always was. Let us today be the children of the truth and not deny our holy heritage. Our life is not as we imagine it. Who changes life because he shuts his eyes or makes himself what he is not because he sleeps and sees in dreams an opposite to what he is? No one. We will not ask for death in any form today, nor will we let imagined opposites to life abide even an instant where the thought of eternal life has been set by the Creator himself. His holy home we strive to keep today and that we share with the Creator, with all creation, with their thoughts as well, whom the Creator created in a unity of life that cannot separate in death and leave the source of life from where it came. So we share one life because we have one source from which perfection comes to us, remaining always in the holy minds which Creator created. As we were, so are we now and will forever be. A sleeping mind must awaken as it sees its own perfection mirroring the Lord of life so perfectly it fades into what is reflected there. And now it is no more than a mere reflection. It becomes the thing reflected and the light which makes reflection possible. No vision now is needed, for the awakened mind is one that knows its source, its self, and its holiness. And we're also doing the Course in Miracles experiment comments from Pam Grout, and her lesson 167 is titled Death. It's not what you think. She quotes J.K. Rowling as saying, "The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death." Pam writes, "The Course turns everything we think we know on its head. For starters, life is not what we think, and neither is death. Lesson 167, There is Only Life, says death is an utterly ridiculous story we made up. The story provides cover so we can pretend to be limited and pretend to be temporary and pretend to be separate from life, which is ludicrous. Life itself is eternal. It pulses, it dances, it continues long after our temp jobs as impermanent bodies. Long after those are over, it turns acorns into oak trees, embryos into bodies. It has no opposite. And, are you ready for this? Any thought that is not supremely happy is also a form of death, which means it is an illusion. All sorrow, loss, anxiety, suffering, and pain are illusions. Even a frown or a slight discomfort is a nod to death, which, once again, is not real. All of these provisional buzzkills indicate our minds are asleep. Once we awake, which we can do by either leaving our bodies or simply realigning our thoughts, once we awake, our life, that pulsing, joyful dance of consciousness, continues on, as it always has, and it always will. So that's our Course in Miracles lesson for today and our commentary from Pam Grout's book. And we have 43 minutes left. What's on your mind? What comments, questions, answers, soliloquies might you want to share with us today? We have the stated time, 41, 42, 43 minutes left. And we have time to talk about whatever's on your mind. My mind is bubbling over. I wouldn't even know where to start. Truth comes to mind as a good starting point. We have truth being mentioned in today's lesson. And truth with a capital T in this work refers to what actually is. not the pictures my mind creates about what actually is, but the essence of existence itself and my role in the existence, which I cannot know from my senses alone. And we've talked about this the past couple of days, that my senses are so limited, my 5 physical senses, that they don't even register more than a fraction of what our scientific instruments can register. So we know that as soon as we augment the senses, we start perceiving things that the basic human body cannot perceive through its senses. We're talking about light waves that go beyond what the eye can measure, and sound waves that go beyond what the ear can record and register in the brain, etc. So the truth of our existence is something that can't be known by the conscious logical mind, that we have elevated to the level of master, that we have given so much power to. And so we hope that in the process of awakening to the fact that we can't know what we don't know and beginning to learn to live in the question, as Rilke would call us to, and so many other great philosophers and poets would call us to, we can start to learn about the realms of existence that we need to begin to explore, that maybe a day, a week, a month, a year, a decade ago, we didn't even know were there. And as we do that, and we share with others, and we share in community, we all grow. And as soon as I say that, I think about the sharing that happened on the Internet show yesterday in the second hour, where Jeannie Ryce did the Internet show and did some powerful sharing that was healing for her and anybody who will listen to that show. Powerful example of the modeling of openness, honesty, and the humility in the sense of the ancient Aramaic term, which has to do with being of the earth, being grounded, being aware of the capacity we can have to look for and see the highest and best in ourselves and then everybody else around us, and then choose to cooperate only with that. In that sense, the humility is like an antidote to putting someone on a pedestal. And we do that. We put people on a pedestal so frequently. Our entire culture is driven by this. We honor, we worship stars and athletes and politicians. And it's one of the biggest, most toxic parts of the nonsense of our insane culture. And when someone opens up and shares the way Jeannie and Susan Bingham were doing yesterday, it is just the antidote that we need to that toxicity of putting people on a pedestal or assuming that one person is better than another. While each of us might have a certain niche of skill area where we're better in that niche than we are in some other niches in our own skill sets. Nothing about my skills makes me better or worse than anyone else. One of the tools I've used for years, even years before I ran into the Dr. Ryce work, was a thing called Safety Rating Scale and Observations List. And I developed this, I pulled this from several different people who had been working with trauma and trauma work, and books like The Body Remembers, but Babette Rothschild and some others who are pulling together observations about how to help people resolve the effects of past trauma. And so this tool has two parts. One is the safety rating scale. And one of the things that Jeannie Ryce was talking about yesterday is that when she's had trauma throughout the years, she developed this coping mechanism of disassociation, meaning feeling like she wasn't in her body, that she wasn't experiencing. She didn't literally consciously experience what was going on. She would disassociate. And sometimes it would be just blacking out for some people when they use that. Sometimes it's a child will actually see themselves floating up into the corner of a room, and they look down to the physical body that they just left, and they don't even identify with that physical body. They just say, oh, that child down there is getting hurt. That's kind of sad. But it's not affecting the heart, the mind, the soul of the child who has visualized themselves instantaneously transported to the high corner of the room away from all of the violence or emotional abuse. Well, when that coping mechanism helps people survive severe abuse when they're a child, it can become a very unproductive automatic mechanism that kicks in when people are young adults and adults. And so the safety rating scale is a tool that I pulled together from a variety of different resources to help people reconnect to their present moment, to be grounded in the physical awareness. It's much of what we try and do when we ask people today to breathe and be conscious of their breathing and turn the focus inside. But this safety rating scale would have people take a breath, scan their body, and throw a number on how safe they feel. And 1 is like life-threatening, and 10 is the most perfect, safe, happy, loving state they've ever experienced or could imagine. And I ask people to just take a breath, scan your body, and throw a number on how safe you feel right now. And we would do this when they're in my office. And many times people would, throw out numbers like, 7, 8, 9, you're so wonderful, Dr. Hayes, etc. And I'd say, okay, great. And it doesn't really matter what number you throw on it as long as you do that exercise. And then I would tell them, especially if their number was anything above a 5 being the neutral, the middle of the range, I would tell them this is why they need that work, because we're talking about intense, emotional, raw stuff, and they're basically disassociated from the process in the room, and they're thinking that they're safe at a level 8 or 9 or 10 mostly because they're cut off from their true experience in the moment, sometimes because they want to please the therapist, etc. And so then I tell them, that's perfect, you did it perfect, whatever number you come up with, and now your assignment is to do that process a minimum of 20 times a day. So you walk out to the car after the session, and you sit down in your car, and you take a breath and scan your body, and you realize, oh my gosh, I feel so much more relaxed out here than I did in the session. There's not enough room between the level 8 that I said I felt in there and a 10, so I must have felt more like a 4 or 5 in there, and now I'm more like at a 6 or 7. It's fine. It's perfect. I don't have to go back in and apologize to the therapist telling them I got the number wrong. If I do that process a minimum of 20 times a day, 2 important things happen. The first thing is I reconnect my conscious awareness to this energy, start to see the roadmap of, oh, wow, no wonder I'm having these flare-ups of inflammation or irritable bowel syndrome. Now, the past 3 weeks, I've been surrounded with these kinds of people that trigger, my associations to past traumas, or, my fear and my anger and my upset because of the interpretation I'm placing on them or their expectations of me. The second part of that exercise is called the observations list. And I ask people to make a list of 5 statements. No less than 3. I don't suggest any more than 7. But these statements can be whatever you want them to be as long as they follow 4 rules. Every statement has to begin with the word I or have me as the focus. It has to be unconditionally true. I'm going for neutral. In the beginning, we'll tolerate a little bit of positive, but no negative. And the fourth rule for every statement is it must be as true for everyone on the planet as if two or more things happen in close proximity to each other in terms of my ability to perceive time.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hear you loud and clear, and when it's time, he'll be ready to pick it up and do the next layer. But right now, he probably just can't see his way clear or imagine that he could get rid of this next layer. And so encouragement, holding the space, and, he knows it now. He knows it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is great. He also has a girl that he really, really likes. It's very attracted to her and she to him. But he says, I'm not sure she's the right one because she's into drugs and alcohol, and I'm just not going to go there anymore.
All right.
The healing. Yeah, the
what
healing
a turnaround.
Is really, I know. He's been sober for about a year, I think now, or 9 months, something like that.
That's awesome.
Anyway, that
nice work.
A little report. So I'm hoping it's a matter of maturation with Charlie. Charlie also knows the worksheets are there. He knows I'm here, but he's not wanting to do them. I say, you want to do a worksheet? And he says no.
Maybe putting Luke together with Charlie in that conversation. And Luke,
that would be great.
Being the older, probably looked up to cousin, perhaps can make an impression of, well, here's what took me out of it.
Yeah, that would be good.
Nothing like a live testimonial. Open the space.
Yeah, right. So I wanted to ask Jeannie how she is today.
Hey, sweetie.
I'm doing really well.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm doing worksheets, though. I told Michael, I said it was an awesome suggestion when you pointed out that, in a way I'm hoarding tasks instead of hoarding boxes and papers. And
lots of motorcycles and trucks, and they don't instantly fall into a Republican mindset.
So the energy was ready, and when she came in to lay down, it was just natural to just go into, okay, let's just breathe through that layer. And so it was, it was powerful. Sweet. Thanks for helping set the stage for the next layer, next level.
Absolutely.
So, sweetie, what's your thinking in the context of all of this now? What's your highest thought, and where would you like to go with it?
Well, I appreciate the accolades and everything. I just continue to work on it because I still feel like I don't have it under control, and maybe that's my control part. And
no, you'll never have it under control. I promise you. You will never be able to control it, but you can forgive it. Just like, in the codependence, we offer the pseudo solutions, and the number one pseudo solution, the non-being mind, is if I could just figure this out. You can't ever figure it out, but you can forgive it each time it comes up. So I'd support you canceling your need to control it. That'll be another worksheet. And allowing the space for whatever's at the root of it to come forward, and moving deeper and deeper into safety and accepting support will vitalize you in a way that the deeper layers, which are going to be more traumatic when they come up, but because you've got the skills, you'll move through them so much faster.
One of the things I thought of, I didn't mention it yesterday, but it's...
And the whole goal of our work process with the tools that Michael and Jeannie make available is to restore my awareness to that true nature so that I can have a direct experience of my true nature as this energy of creation. Well, if I'm in the habit of thinking that someone, did this wonderful thing, they are such a wonderful person, oh my gosh, it's, take somebody like Bill Gates with his hundreds of billions of dollars or whatever, I either love him or I hate him. Well, that's nonsense. And it takes me out of the direct experience of the truth of life in that moment. And one of the the core dynamics of this that we keep talking about. I had a gentleman in my office earlier this morning for a session, and he has a 15-year-old son who has some serious behavioral issues that are caused by brain inflammation, etc. And the father in my office was saying that he was describing something that happened last week. And he made the statement, yes, when I said this to him, that's what caused him to get upset. And I worked, I did my interruption thing, and I said, excuse me, I can't let you lie to me like that. I'm your therapist. We have to talk about it truthfully. Your words did not make your son get upset. Here's a father who was going to take responsibility and blame himself for a rage that his son flew into. In the process, the father was going to be doing what he's done a lot in various times in his life. He swings in the pendulum from building himself up as a wonderful guy and beating himself up as a horrible guy. The essence of this observation is my successes and my failures in any area do not increase or decrease my value as a person. And the more I can see that, the more that's one of the auxiliary, one of the spin-off observations from the ancient Aramaic definition of humility, that we're all the same. And humility, and that's what all these tools are designed for, to help us one instance at a time, one episode at a time, one worksheet at a time, one breath session at a time, one EFT tapping session at a time, one targeted journaling session at a time. I had a 34-year-old in my office last evening and in quite a state of beating himself up, and so we gave him the assignment of a mind shifter to write for an hour. And the mind shifter was something like, it's safe and healing for me, and I love it when people judge me as not enough and want to attack me. And while the content that might get resonated from those words is really important for this particular person, the biggest thing about the assignment of the mind shifter was he can't imagine sitting still for 5 minutes, let alone an hour. Well, how does that happen? How does a human being get so conditioned, so trained to be unhappy, unsatisfied with themselves, that they can't even sit still for an hour? I just flashed on a time when we brought Michael Ryce to Elgin, Illinois for a series of talks, and he did the naturopathic keys to health. And in this lecture, he talks about a dry toothbrushing that he does. He carries the toothbrush in his pocket, and he pulls it out and brushes his teeth. And somebody raised their hand and said, "Well, where do you spit?" And he said, "Oh, you don't have to spit. You just swallow it." And everybody in the audience went, "Oh, gross!" And he said, "Listen to this. Look at what the culture has conditioned you to about your own body, about your own bodily fluids. You swallow all day long. And the stuff that is the residue that's in your mouth after you eat some food is still there, whether you brush it with a toothbrush or not. What makes you think, the only reason we spit when we're brushing our teeth like that is because for most of us, we've been trained to put some kind of poison or sugary stuff as a paste on our toothbrush, and it says, don't swallow this stuff. If you swallow too much of it, you got to call poison control. So we're conditioned to think that what's in our mouth is horrible or bad and we need to spin it out, but that's not the case. What horrible thing might I encounter if I sit quietly with myself for an hour or two. Well, Guy Finley tries to let us know there is no such thing as bad self-knowledge. I've only been conditioned to be afraid of that which is perfectly safe. And I can generate fear. I can generate fear just like this man that was in my office this morning. His son can generate anger when the wind changes. His anger isn't caused by something outside of him. Well, I can generate fear about practically anything. I don't have to have anything actually that is a threat in order for me to generate fear. Dale Ellen Hoffman likes to talk about people come to him all the time and say, hey, how do I take my spiritual work to the next level? And he says, well, there's a few things you can do. The first one is go home, turn off all the lights, and sit in your bedroom absolutely alone. No incense, no chanting, no music, meditation music. Just sit in the dark in your room for 2 hours. And he says, without fail, people come back to him and say, okay, what's step 2 or step 3? And he says, well, did you do step 1? And they say, well, no. And he says, well, then there's no reason to talk about step 2 and step 3 because you can't get there from here. But what have we been conditioned to believe about ourselves? What have we conditioned ourselves to believe? That what we've lived through, what our memories are, what our experience of ourselves, what our definition of our connectivity with the instant response that people expect from us when they send us a text message or an email. It's an amazing training for our nervous system that wasn't designed to function at that level. Which is why so often people say, hey, you know what? You want to improve your health? Reconnect with nature. Go out and walk in the grass. Buy the earthing shoes. Get some quiet time alone. Have some time when you're not plugged into the phone or the music or the news radio or the podcasts. None of those things are bad in and of themselves, but an absence of time to be in connection with, conscious awareness with myself is detrimental. So that, coming back full cycle to that safety rating scale and observations list, are these two little exercises I give people, and then I tell people, now, when you go out and you're doing your daily, 20 times a day, I'm going to check in and take a breath and scan my body and notice how safe I feel, then just note it, and whatever number it is, it is. Over time, I begin to do the relative comparison to how safe I felt in the grocery store versus how safe I felt out in the car, how safe I felt before those, 4 large men in dark coats got out of that black Tahoe next to my car. And I adjust these relatively until I get a more fine-tuned awareness of my inner knowing, my safety rating, my internal alarm system. And then I've got this list of 5 statements that are 100% unconditionally true. They begin with I or have me as the focus. They're neutral. They're not trying to be positive or negative. They're just statements of the truth. And they're as true for anybody on the planet as they are for me. And I write them down, and these would be relevant to me. And then I pull them out and I read them to myself a minimum of 5 times a day. I also pull them out and read them anytime my safety rating number is a neutral or less. So if I'm at a 6 or a 7 or an 8, I don't need to recite my statements, my observations. But if it's 5, neutral, I can't really tell if I feel safe or not, or I'm not so safe, a 4, 3, 2, or 1. As soon as I do feel safe again, or in order to help me get back to safe feeling again, I pull that list of statements out and I read it to myself. In that way, I strengthen this connection between my conscious logical mind and my inner knowing and my body's alarm system. And I get myself that roadmap for the people and places and situations in my life where I feel safe and those where I don't feel so safe. And I will occasionally change the list of observations because I might have one that when I first put it on the list, it kind of is difficult for me to tap into, and it stirs some stuff up. But after I've carried it around in my pocket for 6 months or so, and every time I get triggered, I read it, and I read it every day to remind myself, now it doesn't have the emotional loading on me. It just feels true and solid. And the list of potential statements are as follows. The first one is, I am a human being and I'm deserved. The next one is, I am entitled to and responsible for my own emotions and reactions. The next one is, as a human being, I am capable of loving and being loved. The next one is, it's okay for me to say no. The next one is, I'm not responsible for the failures of other members of my family. This one was contributed by a patient. And she did her list the first week she came back, and it was all conditional. And it was all about other people, and it was all about if maybe someday. And so I said, well, thank you for trying, but you've missed these 4 rules. Do you want to go over a list in the session now and create a new one? Or she wanted to do it herself. So she came back the next week, and she had this on her list, and I said, wow, that's a wonderful list. And that one I'd like to add to the list of statements and examples I give people. And she said, oh, that'd be great. And I said, and I want you to know I would never put that on my list. And she said, well, I thought you said it was a good one. Well, it's a great one, but it doesn't resonate with me. I didn't grow up in a family where the other members of my family blamed me for their failures. She clearly did. So it's not just that I want these observations to follow all 4 rules. I want them to be relevant to my issues, things that I may need to be reminded of in order to build my awareness of the truth of me. The next statement that I offer as an example, a possible statement is, I did nothing to deserve the abuse I have received in my life. The next one is, if I could have done things differently, I would have. The next one is, if I don't look out for my own best interests, no one else will. The next one is, those things which are my greatest assets will at times be my greatest liabilities. The next one is one I've already mentioned. My successes and failures in any area do not increase or decrease my value as a person. The last one is, other people's opinions of me do not increase or decrease my value as a person. So used in combination with the safety rating scale to build and strengthen my conscious connection to my inner guidance and my alarm system, the observations list is a powerful tool to help me get grounded. Why would I pull that list out and read it whenever my safety rating is 5 or less? Well, because in that moment, I tell people, if your safety rating is less than 5 or less, scan the environment and make sure there's nobody, poison snakes or alligators trying to chomp on you, or somebody, barreling at you in a car that's out of control. But once you are aware in that moment that you're physically safe, then what this means is your mind is spinning with negative thoughts that are false. And if you pull this list out of things that in your calm, quiet moments you know are absolutely true, then you read that list and it helps get you grounded and pull you out of the negative thought spinning and grounded in that moment. And with a breath or two, and if you are so inclined, if you've learned the EFT tapping with a round or two of EFT tapping, it's a powerful tool for restoring you to calm, in the present moment, awake, aware, and it's been helping people for decades. And other tools like that have been helping people who've had the effects of trauma disrupt their life. This is a way to start resolving the effects of trauma, put people back in touch with their own physical energy system and the insight, feedback, intuition, guidance systems that they are gifted. So I realize there's only 6 minutes left. 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, you can leave a comment or a question. You can suggest a topic for another day. Today's a Wednesday, so we don't have another support group until tomorrow. I guess I should have mentioned we had our support group last night, and we listened for the first time. We watched an hour of a Deepak Chopra interview, or it was a presentation he did at his Chopra Center. And then we had some processing. So that's available again tomorrow night and each Tuesday and Thursday in our current format. Information about how to join is available at mindshiftersacademy.org. And we have time for a quick question or a comment. What's on your mind? How can we support you today? 563-999-3581. Susan Bingham.
Hi, Dr. Tim. Did you say that those lists are on your website?
I suppose I will have to put it on. I'm not sure that I have that one on the mindshiftersacademy.org website. I'll have to check that out.
Well, I should have started writing when you started talking, but I didn't. And of course, it's possible to go back through this talk. But those sound really good. And one of them triggered me very strongly because my son today called during what would have been work time and said, I'm on my way home from the hospital. I have taken another leave of absence. This is the third one he's done in about 8 years, where he gets to work, he intends to work, finds he cannot focus, finds he feels sick to his stomach, realizes that he just cannot be a doctor anymore, at least for the time being, and he leaves, which is probably the worst way to leave a profession, leaves, a bunch of scheduled patients hanging, but he couldn't function and drove home. And the one, I am not responsible for the well-being of my other family members, that's a juicy one.
Well, yeah. It's not the well-being of them, it's their failures.
Okay, what was the word? Their what?
Failures.
Their failings? Failures.
This came from a woman who was constantly blamed by her. Yeah. She was the one successful, well-balanced, functioning individual in her family. Both of her parents were dysfunctional. All of her siblings were dysfunctional with alcohol and drug abuse and run-ins with the law and jail time and everything else, and none of them were holding a job except her.
Right.
And they were constantly coming after her, asking for money, can we live at your house? Oh, you've got such a nice big house, and oh, you've got so much money, why wouldn't you give? Oh, the only reason I'm not successful is because you got all of Mom's love or whatever.
Oh, boy. Big time. Okay. Well, my version of it was my version, and I think it's worthy of being put down on my paper. Maybe not yours, but I'm not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These are only meant as a seed, as a tickler, as a stimulus to get people to come up with their own. And the only reason I wrote them down is because when I had the 4 rules, people say, well, how can I? That's impossible. I can't think of any statement that would fit all 4 rules. And I would come up with, well, how about just it's okay for me to say no? And I'd point out how that follows those 4 rules, and they'd say, well, okay, but that's not enough. So then we came up with, at one point I think I had 15. Now in the most recent version I think there's only 12 or 13 listed. But that's enough as examples to get people started.
Right. Oh, it's so good. And it's too late to ask another question along that line, I guess. But, Jonathan's, my son's situation is in his head, but he had to leave. And he may well have, it may be that medicine is not for him. There's an actuality that might be true in all that. I don't know if that's a coherent question or statement, but
well, I hear it as a statement. I would agree with the statement. I don't think there's a question in it.
Okay.
It's unless he can resolve the internal dynamic that's causing such upset, he won't be able to find out whether or not medicine could be for him.
Right. Okay. That's good. Because in a sense he's in denial, but the denial is, the situation is such that he has to act anyway. So, medicine isn't causing what's happening to him, but he has to leave. Right.
And it's a good thing to leave when you're getting those kinds of signals that strongly. Now, what do you do? Do you just leave and go home and do your drug of choice and hide? Well, that's not so productive. But if you go home and start exploring, okay, what's going on with me? How am I generating all of these thoughts and emotions and physical traumas, and what might I do to, get healthier or being better in alignment with what my values and priorities are? Maybe that's, maybe there's something I need to do to take care of my physical health. Maybe there's something I need to face at a level of honesty that will open up a new level of mental health for me. Yeah. And once he does that, then he'll be able to better assess, is it possible for him to be successful in medicine, or could medicine be a good practice for him?
Yeah. True.
All right. Well, I thank you so much for the call here right at the end, and I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Ryce.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. I appreciate your show. I also would like to have that list. So.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure that within the next few days I get it up on the mindshiftersacademy.org website on the educational materials page, and I'll also send you an email electronic version of it so you can do whatever you want with it.
Okay, awesome.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Blessings.
Okay. Thanks.